Key Concept 3.2 is mostly about the governments in these new regions and how they would take from other regions and take from their old governments. And it's still also about trade and how ideas and goods were spread. So the first one is about how empires collapsed, but also they were sometimes established. Yeah, so new empires would basically get their governments from empires that collapsed before them. So any new empire could basically draw on the ideas that brought the other empire, but make it better, so it hopefully wouldn't fall. And then they also got ideas from the cross-cultural contacts that they made. So if another empire had a good idea, they would maybe steal it and use it to make their government better and to make their empire better. So new forms of government would basically kind of evolve that way, and especially new things like feudalism and like different types of government, and like the Mongols had the Khanates and everything like that. Just a lot of new forms of government were established at this time. And then the second one is that once again about trade, so there were technological, cultural, like intellectual transfers at this time. So there were a lot of things transferred, and basically it was just like new innovations and new ideas, and especially ideas about government. So some vocabulary are things, basically the first one is all forms of government, and syncretic, which is where you're taking, basically in this key concept, governing ideas and sort of putting them together to form your own government idea or a better government, so they would say. And just tributary system, Khanate, city-state, and feudalism are all forms of governments. And feudalism is especially important, and you can see it in both Europe and Japan. And then the next one, the movable type and gunpowder, they're both inventions or innovations that were developed in China, and they were both spread in these trade routes, and they affected a lot of later developments, like guns for gunpowder and the printing press for movable type. The Crusades, that was a Christian conquest for their Holy Land in the Middle East, and it kind of increased cross-cultural contact because it let the Christians spread their ideas, and they spread it to the people in the Middle East. So like the Islamic states, they would exchange ideas and goods. And then the Mongols, they were a big thing in this whole key concept, and they were a nomadic group, and they conquered a lot of land, a ton of land, and they had the Khanates, so it was the new government system. Some evidence. The first one, it's a picture of sort of how feudalism worked. You would have the king give land to the lords, and then the lords would give their loyalty to the king, so they'd give their army to the king, basically. And then the lords would give land and protection to the knights, and the knights would provide them with their army so that they could give it to the king. And then the knights would give like food and protection and manor, like the serfs would live on manors that the knights owned, and they would do that in exchange to farm the land and work the manor, basically. The next one is the kowtow, which it was a necessary sign of respect in China's tributary states, which shows that China had land and they had tributary states. So, like tributary states, as mentioned in the vocabulary, would basically pay like a tax or like a something to be part of China's like empire, and they would also need to respect China's government. The next one, the first one is for the Crusades, which once again is the quest for the Christians' Holy Land, and it was overall pretty ineffectual and just sort of created a divide between people because the Christians were killing all of the people that they considered infidels. But it did spread ideas and goods. And then the Mongols in the second image, once again, they had just brutal, violent conquest. But they spread ideas and culture, and also disease, like the bubonic plague as well. Some maps. The first map is basically just ideas and goods that were traded through like the Crusades, through Zheng He's journeys, which are I think in the next key concept, and then the Mongols and just everything that you can see that was traded and spread. And then the second one is the Mongols and where they went, because they once again conquered a lot of land and spread a lot of ideas through that. The primary documents are mostly about the Crusades and stuff, and also the Magna Carta, which is a part of this. And then a helpful video on just the post-classical period. You can see a lot about the Mongols on there and other things like that. And feudalism, of course. That's it.